Hello or kia ora, depending on where you're joining us from today. And thank you for joining us for this ADCET webinar on Read&Write and Orbit Note, the study tools to provide agency and boost productivity. My name's Darren Britton. I'm the National Assistive Technology Project Officer with the National Disability Coordination Officer Program and part of the Australian Disability Clearinghouse on Education and Training, ADCET for short. This webinar is being live captioned, and to activate the captions, click the CC button located either at the top or the bottom of your screen. We also have captions available via the browser, and Jane will put a link to that into the chat now for those that wish to use that. First off, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining you today from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation here in Melbourne, Victoria, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today and acknowledge their ongoing connection to land and sea. Just a few quick housekeeping details. This webinar is being live captioned by Jason from Bradley Reporting. Thank you, Jason, and will be recorded. The recording will be made available on ADCET in the coming days. If you have any technological issues or difficulties, please email admin@adcet.edu.au. That's admin@adcet.edu.au. Throughout the presentation today by Ben, please feel free to use the chat box to chat with each other, but please choose all panelists and attendees so that we can read what you have to say. If you have a question that you'd like asked, please use the Q&A box and we'll get to all those questions at the end of Ben's sessions today. As mentioned, today's webinar is with Ben Dyer from Texthelp. We'll look at how Read&Write and Orbit Note can be used to support students with reading, comprehension, organisation and revision, as well as providing learners with more autonomy. He specifically will provide us today with some examples for the VET and higher education learners and how these map to educational outcomes. So without further ado, I will pass over to Ben for his presentation. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks very much, Darren. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule. As we look at Read&Write and Orbit Note, study tools to provide agency and boost productivity for everyone, for you personally, and of course for students and learners as well. So let's begin. My name is Ben. I'm Customer Care Lead here at Texthelp, coming to you today from Brisbane. Best way to get a hold of me if you've got any questions that we don't have time to cover today, or if you want to reach out at any time, just email me at b.dyer@texthelp.com. So I'll give you a moment to capture that. As we're going along, Jane is going to be putting some of the links in as well, starting with this one, or you can take out your smartphone and capture this quickly. First one is to type in this or go to this wonderful resource with loads more materials than we have time to get through today. It's going to be a little bit like drinking from a fire hose. We've got about 45 minutes and a lot of different stuff to cover. So we will be moving fairly quickly. But of course, if you want me to go over something or if I'm moving a little bit too fast, just unmute yourself or type into the chat and let me know and we can go over that again for you. So bit.ly/study skills, fun in capital letters. That's going to take you to a whole bunch of extra resources, links out to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, loads and loads of higher and further ed specific resources to dig into later on after today's session. I'll just give you a moment to capture that. Perfect. So first things first, what is Read&Write? Well, simply it's a toolbar. Here you can see an example of the Windows toolbar. We're operating from within Windows desktop version because that's the most popular configuration for further and higher ed staff and for students as well. And it's a toolbar with a suite of tools that are going to help students and help everyone to understand and to be understood. And importantly, it's very highly customizable and it gives students or learners agency. And what I mean by agency is the ability to get on with any task on any digital environment they are in apart from a smartphone, without having to ask for help or to wait from a response from a tutor, lecturer, peer, or colleague. Okay, it's also important to know that you can install the Read and Write toolbar onto pretty much every platform, including tablets and iPads, except for smartphones. So although today we're looking at Read and Write for Windows, there's also a Chrome version, a Mac desktop version, any device, any platform, Chromebooks via Chrome, Edge as well. So it doesn't matter what digital environment or platform you're in, or even if you, and this is quite common, certain students may have a bunch of different devices that they use, some mobile devices, maybe one at home, and you can simply log in typically with your institution, your university or TAFE or Polytechnic email address, and activate on any number of devices. It's unlimited. Great. Of course, we want to make sure that between where we are studying and our home environment, we provide seamless support. So, of course, in a lot of cases, the Read and Write software at school, depending on the license that is provided, is pushed out to on-campus or on institute machines, such as in libraries and call centers and so on as well. So wherever we are, whatever we're trying to do, we now have a suite of tools to help us to access content and understand it. So where can you use Read and Write? Read and Write is going to work in a Windows environment. We're going to look at this today. Also on Chrome or Edge, it doesn't matter. They're identical backend. Coding is exactly the same. Today we'll be looking at Chrome just because Chrome is the world's #1 most popular browser. So I'm trying to replicate what a typical environment at university or TAFE or Polytechnic might look like. We can operate from within the cloud, and we will dig into looking at OneDrive. If you do not make use of OneDrive, I strongly suggest you do, just because, especially as students move into further and higher education, we're spending hours and hours on individual pieces of work, and it would be a great shame to lose any of that. So the benefit of understanding and operating in OneDrive, which I'll show you on a PDF today, means that all of the work that we do is saved immediately. And if we're collaborating on that or seeking feedback, all of that is saved into the cloud. So if anything happens to our device, runs out of power, all of those things, all of the work is secure and saved and ready to access from any device. So that's OneDrive. Also SharePoint, OneNote, any 365 environments such as Word, and you'll see some of these open. And crucially, with the addition of Orbit Note, which is a new extension that comes free with your subscription of Read and Write, Orbit Note, which is a simple extension into your browser of choice, Chrome or Edge, that's going to allow you to have all of the wonderful accessibility tools on Read and Write, and also some really exciting new annotation tools, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. So as we're going through, if I'm going too fast or too slow, just jump in. If you missed something, if you want me to show you how I got to that point, just jump in and I'm happy to show you. So next we move on to why would you want to use Read and Write? And not only is the toolbar going to boost your productivity personally, but also those of everyone around you, it also helps to deliver a much richer learning experience for learners, because we know that students expect a fully optimized educational experience from enrollment right through their study, and predominantly that has changed definitely from when I was at university a long time ago. Now it is has shifted from an analog environment into one that is completely digitized. Okay, and for students, for everyone, if you have children, the toolbar is going to help you in various ways. And one of the main reasons for not completing coursework is barriers to literacy. So first of all, we want a toolbar that helps to remove these barriers and support all of our learners. And supporting FEHE students with their literacy requirements is the first step. It's absolutely essential. Of course, we also know that literacy is a key indicator for agency, inclusion, course completion, and then inevitably social connection and employability. So we start off with tools to help us with reading, and that's where we'll start. And if you think about it, almost any task that we encounter, including day-to-day things, starts off with the task of reading or accessing content. As I mentioned, we also want to give students agency. And when I say agency, I mean giving students voice and choice in how they access, engage, and express themselves. And crucially, to be able to do this without the need to ask parents, carers, peers, the tutor, anybody else. They can access content, crack on with any task that they have in any digital environment. Okay, so let's start with tools to help us to access content or to read content out to us. I'm just going to minimize my presentation. Here you can see my desktop. And if you've installed the Windows version, it will actually put a shortcut on your desktop. You can even set it to open whenever you start your computer up, which is beneficial for some learners. For other people like me, it's annoying. So I toggle that off. But to open up the Read and Write toolbar, I simply click on it, double click on the shortcut. It'll pop up with a purple window that says, hey, I'm loading. Just give me a second. And now you can see that the toolbar has popped up in the top. It locks into the top of my screen, and I've got a whole bunch of tools now to help support me, which is fantastic. So let's jump to a website. If you haven't seen Western Sydney University's Assistive Tech, this is a shout out to Sally and Natalie. It's worth checking it out. You can find out a lot of information about our Read and Write, but also other tools such as Orbit Note, Microsoft, Sonocent, Dragon, a lot of other very useful tools for accessing content digitally. So check it out, and I'll just use it as an example. But if you've got Read and Write up and running, please just open up any website that you have and try it out with me. So what I can do is select any text that I would like to have read out. And then click on the play button.
Texthelp's Read and Write Toolbar is designed to help you with the process of researching, reading and writing with a wide variety of tools that you can customize.
And I'll just pause it there. So obviously you're going to start to see how this will be an absolute game changer for students who are struggling with literacy, or if they have significant learning barriers such as dyslexia. Because it's going to essentially read out any content on any web page that we have, provided it's accessible, and I'll get onto inaccessible text next. But as long as it's accessible, we can have it read out. Not only is it read out to us, but it utilizes dual highlighting, and I can change the contrast, but the current contrast is set to a very nice, easy to see yellow for the sentence that is being read out, and blue for the actual word that is being read out to me. Why is this important? Well, we know that students who are reading at about 100 words per minute or slower, the cognitive load is very, very high, but also they're going to be spending all of their energy trying to decode each word. So even if they are successful in reading through, the comprehension is almost zero. So we want to give students a tool that reads content out to them, but also significantly reduces the cognitive load for them. And that's exactly what the play button does, or screen reader. And far and away, it's the most commonly used tool. So if you only have an elevator pitch for 30 seconds to show your student one tool, show them the play button first. Awesome. So that's the play button. And I can pause and stop, which is really, really handy. But what happens when I have inaccessible text? Inaccessible could be text inside an image. It could be the way that the PDF has been created. Also, very commonly, I hear from students these things: hyperlinks on a website. If I want to read this out, but if I try and click on it, it will actually take me to another page. And that's very, very frustrating for me. So what I can do there, instead of trying to click on it and being taken to other websites, or if my play button doesn't work, I will select the screenshot reader next to the stop tool. And then, for example, if I wanted to read out all of the different tools that are available to support students at WSU, I can hover around it. That's going to tell me it's working on it.
Read and Write Orbit Note Microsoft Learning Tools in Office 365 Glean Note-taking Sonocent Audio.
I'll just stop it there, but you can see it will pop out and it will read all of that content to me. Within the settings, I can also customize the tool. And remember, we want to give students agency, but we also know the more customization we provide for students, the more motivating it is for them. And also, there are a number of benefits of a screen reader that is computer-based over a human, because we can really customize pauses between words, pitch, what kind of accent, the language that we want to read. It's not just a tool for accessing in English, but for the purposes of today, we'll predominantly focus on English language content access. So yeah, the settings. How do we get to the settings? Across here, on the very top right-hand side, if I hover over, it will tell me there's 3 little lines. That's my settings. Now, the first thing you want to do is see if you've got continuous reading on. That will be the default. That would just mean that on any website, any Word document, 365, PowerPoint, whatever environment I'm in, it will just keep reading content as much as content there is to read out. If I go into show more settings, then you can see there's a whole bunch of cool stuff I can do. I can change the size of the buttons. I can even change the color. So how about purple? See that? It changes it all for me. That whether I want it to launch or not on startup. Something that's very useful for higher and further education students is, depending on the school will actually denote what kind of reference style is required, and that can be automatically changed. So the beginnings of a bibliography is in the right style guide, and we have a choice of most of the major ones, or we could elect not to. The default will be Harvard. At any time, and depending on the age and stage of my learners and how familiar they are, and whether a lot of different tools initially will be confusing, you can simply toggle on and off any of the tools by just clicking on them. So you can fully customize this, which we know students really like to do. But specifically for the speech tool, you can see there are customizations for pretty much every tool. You may want to just show students quickly that they can choose from a number of different voices, including accents, which would read out in a number of other languages, and you can upload many more different voices. Voice speed, I typically have mine hovering just below, slightly slower when I'm demoing, but 100 will make it very, very fast. 0 will make it slow. I can skim through if I'm skimming through journals and a lot of content using my arrow keys, if I have the arrow keys change set on. And of course, I can select whether I would like a higher pitch or pauses between words. And this is another feedback we get anecdotally from students quite often. Students, when I was at school, it would be the case that we would actually have a volunteer or a teacher aide come in, sit down next to students with identified learning needs and read things out to them. But most of the time we know that students will feel very reluctant to say, hey, could you speak a bit slower, faster? You're mumbling. Could you repeat that word? And all of these things can be fully customized to that specific learner's requirements very, very easily. So no two students are going to use the same voices and speed and pauses and pitches. Difficult to iterate to a human reader, very easy to customize from within Read and Write. So that's another major benefit that we often hear from learners themselves. Excellent. So now we've got a tool to access accessible and inaccessible content. In the case, I showed you a website because we know that websites are the most popular place that students go to access content, unsurprisingly. And this data comes from our rich data analytics of our 36 million users globally. So first thing to show students if you're doing a session is show them websites, because that's where they're going most of the time. We've shown you how to customize the toolbar using the options menu. And just to revise, it's no surprise that the text-to-speech tool is the most commonly used tool. It relieves the burden of decoding, significantly reduces cognitive load, and allows students to focus on comprehension. So it's an absolute game changer. Another thing that's good from a productivity boosting perspective, if you have a lot of content to get through yourself, a lot of postgrad students will tell me this, where they have, jobs and then they have hundreds of pages of research to do. When you listen to text, depending on the learner, you can access that content up to 4 times faster than if you were to read it out, and the cognitive load is lower. So now you're starting to understand, if you've got long emails, if you're doing any research or postgrad study yourself, you will know that this is a massive productivity boosting tool for you. And we're not finished with the play button. There's still some more applications. So it's, as I say, if you only show one tool, the play button has just so many uses for all people. Okay, so another one that's I love to show students, as particularly as they move into further and higher education, is the research folder, which is this one up here. So now I'm looking at a marketing website, Marketing 101, and I'm just learning the basics of what is marketing. Here it is. And I like this image. This is quite good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder just for this particular course. Let's call it Marketing 101. And now, as I'm going through and I'm starting to research on websites, on journals, maybe I've been given a recommended list of digital resources, PDFs, it doesn't matter what they are, I can simply go in. For example, if I like this image, what is marketing? That's really good. Notice how I can't pull it anywhere because it's an image. It won't see how it's coming up. It won't let me do that. Not a problem. What I'll do is click on my research folder. And now I've got a bunch of research tools in this little toolbar, this extra toolbar that's particularly useful for our students in further and higher education. So I can't capture that image. I could take a screenshot of it, but then where would I put it? What I can do is have all of this cool stuff that I'm finding, whether it's an image, whether it's text, in one place from within my toolbar. And I can do this across multiple websites, PDFs, journals, whatever the case may be. So here we've got an image. I like that. I'll click on image. I'm going to capture this. And that's going to pop up and it'll say, hey, what's the title? And I'm going to call this, what is marketing? It'll tell me the date, the author. It'll tell me that the image has been collected. And I can also start to collect all of this stuff. And I would suggest when you're showing this to students that you actually get them to put in this semester or this trimester, as the case may be, actual courses. And as they're doing their research around each course, they'll put it in. And so it replicates what they're actually doing from within their study. But as an example, we're looking at Marketing 101, and I just simply add, yeah, it should just add that into, I don't know why it's asking me to create another folder, but that's okay. Okay, sorry, I was pressing the wrong thing. And I can even add some comments in here as well if I want to leave myself some study notes or revision notes or why I took that image. So that's one thing. Once I'm done with that, I can just simply save it and it'll say, great, you've saved that image into your research folder. So as I'm going through and, oh yeah, this is really good information, great, understanding marketing mix of 4Ps. This looks really, really important. I'm going to capture some text as well. So in the case of text, rather than an image, I can just select the text, click on the plus. Oh, sorry, it didn't like that. I'll try it again. It may be taking a little bit of time. Typically, that will actually just go through the same process. It will pop up with the same window, ask me which course I would like to save it into. And then what I can do at any time is, it seems to have frozen on me. So it's not having a good day. Oh, there we go. It's finally come up. So then here we go. It even gives me the title of it, all of my information. So it's just taking a little bit of time. Again, I can select the folder. So I want to put it all into marketing and so on and so forth. I could just go through, and I can do this across multiple tabs, whether I'm in PDFs, journals, websites, Word documents, as the case may be. So then what I can do is click on my research folder. It's taken a little bit of time today. And then I can go through whether I've got study skills, whatever the case may be. Let's go down to marketing. Then I can simply select all of the things from my research folder. When I'm ready to revise, if I'm going to start beginning my thesis or my written assignment for that particular course, I can then export all of the research that I've done on that particular course or topic. And it's taking a bit of time, but that will create a document for me with pulling together all of the research that I've done in one easy place. And because it's operating from the cloud, all of this is saved instantly. So if your computer runs out of power or something happens, it's all going to be saved in there for you. That's fine. It's taking a little bit of time, but it may pop up later on, but you get the idea. So research, okay. The research folder is definitely another one that you'll want to spend some time to show students. Excellent. So just because I have a tool to help me with accessing content, with organizing my content into my different courses that I'm studying, it doesn't necessarily mean I can understand it. So let's take a look at tools to help us with the comprehension of content. And I'm going to show you in the context of a PDF using the new Orbit Note tool. So Orbit Note, there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos on adding in an extension. Very quickly though, if you're in Chrome or Edge, it's this little extensions panel, and you just want to go in and make sure you've got Orbit Note in there. I won't, in the interest of time, show you where to go and how to do that. Reach out to me. We've got walkthrough articles and YouTube videos explaining how to do that. Just make sure you've got Orbit Note extension installed. This is very powerful. What this means is if you're operating from within OneDrive or Google Drive, as the case may be, but for today's purpose, we're in Microsoft environment. So I'll go to OneDrive. I simply click on a PDF that I want to open. If you are not in the habit of using OneDrive, please do get in the habit and make sure that students are. I have a few horror stories, including one of my own with many hours of work lost because my device died, and with it on the desktop, all of the work that I had done. So please do make sure you get students in the habit of operating from within OneDrive, because everything that is done on the cloud is saved instantly. So if something happens to your device, you don't lose any of your hard work. It's a hard lesson to learn, and I'm sure some of us on the call have indeed learned that the hard way. So make sure you get students in the habit of using OneDrive or Google Drive, same thing. Just go to a PDF if you've got Orbit Note installed, click on it. When you click on it, it will, I'll just show you very quickly, It'll prompt you to open in the browser. That's fine. And then you'll notice that it pops up on the left-hand side with the Open with Orbit Note sign. So if I click on that one, it's going to open. And see here, we've got our play button. So we can use our play button to have content read out to us. But we've also got a bunch of really nifty, sorry, I closed the research folder, really nifty tools. So here, now we're looking at a PDF on psychology. PDFs, by the way, are the second most commonly accessed type of document. So it's by design that I'm showing you websites and then PDFs, because we know that's the bulk of where students will go to access content in a digital environment on their computers. So let's pretend that I've selected the text, I've listened to it a few times. Now I'm going to dig down into it, but there's a lot of technical jargon here. I have no background in psychology. I'm not too sure what a lot of these words mean. So what I can do is click on the dictionary. And then I like to show it in PDFs just because it's very easy for me to put some of these comprehension tools on the side of my document. So wherever I see the play button, I can also, that means I can listen to that content as well.
Behaviorism.
And I can even listen to the dictionary explanation of that word. So now as I dig down into further understanding any vocabulary that I'm not too sure on, I can just click on it and see and listen to the word and also the dictionary meaning or meanings if there are multiple. I've also got though here a picture dictionary. Now it won't come up with an image for every single word, but for many words I can see there's the word, I can listen to the word, and then there's a visual aid to further help with comprehension. And as I'm going through my document, I can simply click on each word, and that is going to just have those tools hovering up. Also significantly reducing cognitive load. We know that a pet peeve for a lot of students, especially those with significant learning barriers, limited motor skills function, jumping between tabs is very frustrating. So that's another major benefit. We've got all these tools, they hover in one area. We don't need to jump around between tabs and make life more difficult for anyone. All of these tools will hover over the content that we're trying to access, and especially on a PDF, I love to show it because you've got usually a bit of space on the side. So that's really handy, right? Now, I know we had a question before the session started on CALD students or international students for a lot of cases in universities, TAFEs and polytechnics. So what about if your students are international students or speak multiple languages, or my first language is L1 is a language other than English? Well, good news, the translate tool works in the same way. So I can select the word I would like to translate, and then I can listen where it's supported. In many cases it is, both in English if I'm on an English document, but also I'm not too sure what language I've got it set to at the moment, but I'm sure some people on the call will recognize.
Acercamiento.
It could be Spanish. Then I can listen to that word that's supported as well. Okay, so what about if the default, if it's not Spanish, if it's another language? More good news. For the purpose of today's session, we're looking at the assumption that most of the content delivered, websites, etc., would be in English medium. If they're in other languages, as they can be, German, for instance, in postgrad for medical students, etc., where it is supported, and we support 115 different languages at count. You could also have a document, if you set the language to another language, read out to you in that language as well. So it works both ways to facilitate bilingual, and particularly exciting for bilingual students, international students, students who speak multiple languages, also as a language tool. So how do we set this to change it from Spanish? I'll just shut this down so it's easier to see. Go to the three little dots, go to the first section, which is settings. We can actually change all of the navigation in the tab itself into some languages, including French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and English. But in the translation tool, we can translate from English, but also a number of other languages. They will be supported. The play button would play that language out. And I was right, it is in Spanish, but up to, I think it's 115 different languages at last count. I have personally tested it. I speak fluent Japanese, by the way, so konnichiwa if there are any Japanese people joining today. But I have tested it in my rudimentary French, Spanish, and Japanese. So I can tell you it works 100% in those languages. So I hope that answers the question that we had as well around international students. I know they get a lot of benefit from that. And they don't crucially have to go to any search engines, translation languages on a separate tab like Google Translate or DeepL, because that's very frustrating for students. They can stay on top of the content that they're trying to comprehend. Just have these wonderful tools hovering above them. We've also got a screen masking tool. So if I click on this, notice that I could have various different configurations to read. I can even have the play button playing while I'm following along. If I go into my settings, I can even highly customize the color. So see how it changed the whole page to a certain color. Certain contrasts will suit certain students, such as low visibility students will tend to want different contrasts rather than black on white. And I can change opacity and background opacity and all those types of things as well. So that's quite cool. Remember, if you when you've finished with your screen masking tool, just to switch it off or it'll remain like that. So that's really, really cool. Now, in terms of some other stuff that you can do, let's remain on the PDF for a while. Some of the most common applications of using the highlighting tool. So what I see a lot of students doing, if it were me studying psychology, I have no background in psychology, I would probably use the button to highlight any technical, scientific, psychology specific vocabulary that I'm not too sure about. Or maybe I'm highlighting words that I had to use the comprehension tools to help me to understand. So once I've kind of gone through, what I can simply do is click on the vocabulary list. That will open up a new document, unsurprisingly, in Word 365. So it's in the cloud. It's saved automatically. If something happens to my device, I log into my cloud and all of it is there saved for me on any device. I'll never lose any work again. It's taking a little bit of time to load up, but when it does, what you'll see, or what you would see, is the word that was selected, the visual image where one is available, the dictionary meaning, and then a notes column. So a very, very quick way to, it doesn't seem to want to work for me today, but normally that's what you'd see opened up in the cloud. All of the things, by the way, that I'm showing you today, you'll be able to access on YouTube playlists for all the different platforms that we support. So don't worry if I'm going a little bit too fast. I appreciate we've got a limited amount of time with a lot to cover. We're in the folder that I shared at the start of the presentation. There's a YouTube list to go through each tool in short 1 to 2 minute videos showing you what the tool is and how to use it. So that's one simple way to use the toolbar, the highlighting tools. Of course, another way to use the tools will be to for research, revision, adding study notes, and checking through what concepts you don't understand. So you could share that with your tutor, lecturer, or peer group. So in this case, I typically ask students to select and make sure that a highlighter means something in that color. So blue might be something that I'm going to use for my writing. So this will be used in my written assessment. I might choose pink for something that I do not understand. So I don't understand behavior from the environment. I'm going to check with my tutor. And as I'm going through, you know, I may just keep doing stuff. This is, yeah. Yellow might be something that my lecturer or tutor has said, this is going to be on the test. Make sure you revise anything in yellow. This is definitely going to come up in your assessment task. I've got to remember that. I'm going to remember that. And so on and so forth. I will just keep highlighting. You know, when I was at university, we actually printed it out and did it. Now we can do all this much, much faster and easier. Oh, sorry. I've clicked on the wrong thing and link. That's frustrating. That's okay. It'll load back up and we can test whether it's actually saved the work that we have done. So that's okay. And yes, so that's the benefit of operating in OneDrive. Even if I click on something or I shut my browser down or I run out of power, it's all saved in there automatically, which is fantastic. So as I'm going through, I'll use my highlighters for various different research purposes. And then when I'm ready, I'll click on highlighters. And instead of doing it in the position, I can utilize these colors for certain meanings. So we didn't use green, but the other ones we did. That will, all things being equal, open up a Word 365 document. So again, saved into my Word. It's called the title of the PDF. And then, hey presto, I can share this out with peers, with my tutor or lecturer and say, hey, I'm not too sure what basic assumptions of behavior is. Can we arrange a time so I can really speed up that student-teacher feedback loop and get feedback much, much quicker. But I've also organized my ideas. So here's stuff that I'm going to use for my, as I do my writing task. Here's all the stuff I know my tutor told me is going to be coming up in the midterm or final term assessment task very, very easily. And it gives us a link to where we pulled that particular information from. So we can use that in our bibliography and avoid plagiarism. Excellent. Okay, so a bunch of comprehension tools. And just some, I wanted to give you some quotes from people that use it. This is from Dr. Sandra Noakes saying, thanks so much for this. She's talking about Read and Write. This software is amazing. It's really easy to use. So that's very reassuring. Orbit Note, we've just looked at to help us not only to have all of these wonderful accessibility tools to access, understand content, but also some wonderful organizational tools with the highlighters, the vocab maker for a terminology in certain subject areas. Also, it's good to show students, I know these are going into the chat, but some organizational apps as well. So I know they'll go into the chat, check those out and share them with your students. And then finally, I want to show you a couple of tools for the most academically challenging task we ask students to do, which is writing. I appreciate we're cutting into our questions time, so I'll just finally show you a couple of tools and then we'll open it up for questions. So here I am now on a Word document, and you can see I've had to go at some writing. Far and away, a couple of tools that you definitely want to make use of is the Check It tool. So I can select the tools, the content, check it. And this is kind of using more advanced technology than what is available in Microsoft and or Google. It's also a writing coach. So instead of just giving us the answer, it will give us contextual usage, tell us whether it's grammar, spelling, or punctuation. And we can go through and over time use consistently. This is like our AI writing coach. It's going to help us to write better with less grammar and spelling and punctuation errors. So that's very, very handy, giving us contextual usage of not only why that is an error, but why is it an error? So the Check It tool. And then finally, a couple more tools. The prediction tool, you should always have on. So if I only had two tools to show, I'd show the play button, the prediction tool. When we turn it on, it gives us a list of the top 10 words that are used most commonly based on what we've written. And it's smart, so it remembers what I have written previously. The more I use it, the more accurately it predicts what I'm writing. And we know that students who use the prediction tool consistently can write more sophisticated sentences and longer. And that is important where we're usually denoted word counts in higher and further education. So I can even hover over, so I don't have to rely on typing literacy.
Like walking.
Yeah,
lot.
And you get the idea. So I can type by clicking on it. I can listen to the word, or I could type it in. It'll start to predict vocabulary. So we know from research that in over 90% of cases, students who consistently use the prediction tool write up to a couple of grade levels, depending on the learner, above their current literacy level. It's an absolute game changer for reluctant writers, but helpful for all of us. And then finally, the final tool I want to show you is to select all of the text again, and we're back to our play button. Remember I told you it's got a whole bunch of usages? Remember I also told you that
it was the first day of the holidays.
Pause it there. Obviously I've written this, so I don't need it to help me to understand what I've written down myself. But remember I told you, depending on the learner, you can listen to content up to four times faster than you can read it. So imagine you're a busy student, you've worked all day, now you've spent a couple of hours on your writing assignment, cognitive load, you're very, very tired. Remove all of that load and access the content faster. Use it to proofread your work to check if what you have written is actually what you wanted to say and whether it's coherent. So a massive productivity boost for all of us. Excellent. There's so much more that I want to show you guys. However, we've run out of time. So I'm just going to skip through. We will be sharing the slides with you. Of course, if you've got any questions, please reach out to me at any time. This one will go into the chat as well. Finally, I'll just finish by saying we're having a whole day of wonderful roundtable discussions, special guests from Google, blended and hybrid learning, well-being, UDL, agency, all hot topics, all great things to collaborate on. We have some special guests from higher and further education as well. So we would love to see you at our Future Building in Education virtual event on the 4th of May. So please open up your calendar and save that date in there and grab that link and you can register right now. Thanks very much, guys. That brings me to the end of the time that we had allotted. So now I believe we're going to open it up for some lovely questions from you guys.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Ben, for your presentation and demonstration there of the tools today. I think that was very valuable. You did address one of the prior questions we had, and that was about culturally and linguistically diverse students in particular. But I probably want to touch on with that as well with mature age students and in the use of the tool. So some of those returning to education and things. So the applicability of read and write there. Have you got?
Yep. Yeah, so 100% applicable in all the same ways that I showed you. So obviously for students of any age, we actually have two arms of Texthelp. I belong to the education arm, so most of the work I do kind of finishes with students who matriculate from TAFE or Polytechnic or university. Obviously though, these tools will help students and people of all ages and stages. We do have a lot of people. I was speaking to a dyslexic person last week who's probably going to be on a podcast with us soon, a man called David Swift. And he was talking to me about how, tools like Read and Write have helped him immensely to get his ideas down. He actually graduated with a master's degree from QUT and went on to start his own highly successful consulting business. And to this day, whenever he's consulting with clients, he uses things like the prediction tool, the play button, so that he can collate his thoughts, write emails, and so on. So yeah, even though we've kind of stayed within the parameters of talking about students, for mature age students at any age and stage, if they're coming back to study or if, when they matriculate as well, both ways, you can see that these tools are going to help everyone, including yourselves, not only to access content, but crucially to boost productivity, expedite processes, and save a lot of time.
Yep. Another question here. Can Read and Write be loaded onto a staff laptop without logging an IT request? It might depend on how they're locked down or not.
Yeah, it really does depend. So personal devices, absolutely. Within that YouTube channel, in the resources that I shared the folder, there's links out to our YouTube channel, or just go to YouTube and type in Texthelp. It'll be the first page that pops up. Literally hundreds of hours of all kinds of PD on neurodiversity, remote learning, special videos specifically aimed at university students, for example. Within them though, and I'm happy to share this with you as well, if you just email me, are self-installation guides. So they will short couple of minute videos. You just choose the platform that you're on. Let's say you're on a Mac, and it'll just guide you through the whole process. Typically for further and higher education, in almost all cases, you authenticate with Microsoft. So just be careful when you're using Google Chrome. A lot of students will use their personal Gmail account and wonder why it comes up with the 30-day trial. You sign in via email, click Microsoft, even if you're in Google, and put your institution's email address in. And you should be able to do this on any number of devices. Of course, if you're not sure, just send us an email and we can jump on a quick Zoom and I can show you. It doesn't take very long.
Yep. We've got time just for a couple of others, and there's more in there that we might have to get to and post onto the web page afterwards. But what's the benefits of using Orbit Note extension with the Read and Write toolbar already has the PDF reader functionality?
Yep. Okay. So in response to research that we did globally with our 36 million users, we found that the PDF reader included is clunky. It doesn't work very well on inaccessible text. Annotating it can be troublesome, and all of those things are not saved. So we shifted to a cloud environment, and I think I touched upon that probably a bit too much. The key benefit of operating in Orbit Note, whether you're in OneDrive or Google Drive, all of the work is saved instantly. So think about the applications of that for improving student-teacher feedback loop. If something happens to your device, if you've got to run for the bus, if you forgot to bring your charger cable, there are significant benefits to having something that saves automatically. And the biggest benefit, of course, is you don't ever lose any of the hard work that you've done.
And last one, can you type as you, can it type as you speak, like with Dragon?
Yes, it can. So sorry, it's one of the tools that I had hoped to show you, but we're always limited by time. There is a dictation tool. And if you're familiar with the dictation tool in Word, it's the same tool. It'll operate on any document you're in. And actually the technology is, it either uses Microsoft or Google speech recognition technology, which is very, very accurate now. The caveat though, of course, with dictation software is that it will not pick up capitalization or punctuation. So there is a cognitive load requirement in terms of editing what you have used using dictation. Of course, we have a list of voice commands to help with that. And we can provide that to you. Again, just email me and I'll send you the voice commands to make that a little bit better.
Excellent. And just very, very quickly, everyone, just on pricing, if you can just in 10 seconds give me in terms of the pricing models that have been around in the past of buying outright license or seat licenses, is Read and Write moved to a subscription based model like
Yes.
many other software as a service?
Yeah, so it's all SaaS based now. So if you are using the old legacy versions, they're not as good. So please do contact us if you want to set up a free pilot for your institution. We're happy to do that for a term to assess it. Single licenses are $300. And a lot of universities will opt to go for an unlimited license for all staff, support staff and students. Again, just send us an email. We're happy to set up a trial if you haven't got one yet. And everyone has access to Read and Write as an educator using your institution email address, and that is free of charge.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ben. Sorry we didn't get through all the questions. We will, Ben will be answering those and we'll put them up onto the ADCET website along with the recording and some responses to those. I'd just like to thank everybody today for their attendance and let you know that there's a webinar next week. Next week's webinar is on the Equatio, so please register for that. Jane will put a link into the chat for people to follow that up. Also a link to a survey around today's session. We do value your feedback, so if you can fill that in and let us know information about today's session, that would be fantastic, and maybe we'll get some feedback saying it'd be really good to cover some of the other tools that were there, so we may end up doing another session on some of those other parts if that's what people wanted. But again, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jason from Bradley Reporting, for the captioning today, and thank you everybody for your attendance, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, everyone. Just one more thing from me. I forgot to mention, we will be doing a follow-up session to this in April. And if you, again, email me and we might put it into the follow-up mechanism, a deeper dive on study tools for further education. So look forward to that one, and you can join via GoToWebinar in April.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.